Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Inky Thoughts podcast. Today is, as always, a very special episode because every episode is a snowflake and special in its own way. But today is even more special for me as a nerd, self-proclaimed, often backed up by anybody I meet, and especially when it comes to books, gaming, and comic books. And this will be very relevant in a little bit when you get to know more about my guests today, because they are the magic maker, the proprietor, the founder, as far as I'm aware, of a very specific event that has to do with this topic called Literary Ink in, if I'm not mistaken, Chattanooga, Tennessee, in the United States of America. Where else would it be? Tennessee, I don't know where else where that is. But I have a fellow nerd extraordinaire on the podcast today, as well as a great tattoo artist that does a lot of great colorful artwork, and is herself attracted to the nerdier tattoos as far as I know. But before I give the whole game away or ramble on too far, Jennifer, would you please introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for asking me to be on today's show. It's one of my favorite things to get an opportunity to talk to other folks about tattoos, about literary ink. So, as you said, my name is Jennifer Edge, and yes, the Literary Ink Tattoo Convention is in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I was born and raised in Chattanooga, Tennessee, so kept it here. I have a shop named Mainline Tattoo that has been around almost 12 years. We turned 12 in August. There are six of us that tattoo there, and we have a piercer and just a big part of our community. Always have been. I was raised by my grandmother, so lots of things from that older time period has been sunk into my brain about moving forward with my businesses as well as just all the things that I do as a person in general.
That's fantastic. Now, I have one question, the only one I always get to from my interview guides I send out to guests before doing this. And this is the only one I can't help myself but to ask. But how did you get into tattoos and tattooing, respectively?
This is one of my favorite stories. So I am 48 years old. I started tattooing kind of the tail end of me being 31. When I was 19, I'd been getting tattooed by this lady in town who I just thought was amazing. And I went to her and I was like, would you ever consider an apprentice? And she said, well, I have one right now, but maybe come back and see me in a year. Well, kept getting tattooed a little bit, but then went back and saw her in a year. And she goes, I've met the love of my life. I'm moving away. 11 years later, I'd gotten a few more tattoos, but nothing like arms, nothing you could really visibly see. I ended up going into this shop and I met this lady who started tattooing me, literally just had an amazing time with her. A few months later, she left that shop and went somewhere else. And we kept talking. I went in and started getting trained by her. She was trained by the person who was the current apprentice when I was like, isn't that wild how everything
That is
trickles
wild.
down? And she actually didn't stay tattooing too much longer. So I've had about three mentors, which when you talk to most tattoo artists, they talk about how it was always a crazy apprenticeship. Mine had its moments, but I'm grateful to everybody, even the people that I learned from that weren't exactly kind, just because they did something that got you there. You can appreciate what they did that either made you know how to do it right, know how to do it wrong, or know how to do it that you never wanted to do it that way. But yeah, crazy road there. Fast forward 16 years. I have never been happier tattooing than I am right now. I am working with the most amazing people. Don't tell them I told you that. But they have the biggest hearts. I mean, they're all just geniuses in their own right. And when we pull Literary Ink together, it's because of this team. You will see every member of this team there doing something. Everybody has a certain job, or everybody is, I'm taking care of the artist. Okay, well, I've got up front, I've got the medals. Okay, well, Susie's taking care of this. Our partners too. Like our partners are there for the show. Like it is insanely wild to see how everybody does come together for this. It's heartwarming. And I feel the same way about the artists who show up. Like all the tattoo wizards that are coming from all over the world and the United States, they are just kind, and it's just the biggest hearted artist I've ever met.
I mean, it does seem like when I look at it, the best way I could describe it from afar, having followed it for a while, the event, it's like book talk meets tattoo Instagram as well.
We started the show in 2018 at a hotel. We had 85 artists.
Oh,
And
it's
it
pretty good.
was it was wizardry themed in the beginning. And just as we moved and progressed, knowing that I do not agree with the author, she who must not be named, values,
Yeah.
we changed it to completely turn over to book themed, which I think honestly, we always thought we were going to do that. It was kind of in the back of our brains that there are so many books out there, and look at some of the stuff that's come out since things 25 years ago, or even going back to Lord of the Rings. Like, we each have that
Oh,
book we're
there's been a
diving
lot of Lord of
into.
the Rings tattoos going on ever
Good.
since the 80s,
Yes.
man.
Yes. I mean, period. Probably all time. The before it was even written, you know. Lord, Lord of the Rings has a special place in my heart. I got to meet Elijah Wood one time. It was really one of those
Oh,
moments where I
wow.
was like starstruck. It was awful. I
He
was
seems
like,
apparently a very
wow.
nice guy, so yeah.
He is. He really was. I've watched him. You know, I mean, you watch the people that you get to see on movies for forever. So it was wild to kind of actually interact in that one moment. And I was like, I don't ever want to be that starstruck again. That felt awkward, but it was Frodo.
Well, I mean, as long as you don't think about him in oh, what was that movie called? I forgot. I forgot it now. It's that black and white action like
Sin
grindhouse movie.
City.
Yeah, Sin City.
Mhm.
That's a very different Elijah Wood in that
It
movie.
is. It is. He's played some old characters. He actually
Yeah,
came to
yeah.
Chattanooga. There was a Chattanooga Film Festival, which is coming up, and I'm going to be tattooing at it. They
Oh,
put
cool.
on like a small town film festival, and he had been, he started putting, I don't know if it was like his production company, but he was starting to do a lot of things with horror movies, and he showed
Hmm.
up for that. And like, it was wild because all of Chattanooga had a photo with Frodo. I mean, literally, he was that kind. He signed autographs. I mean, there were probably 400 pictures that went through. The photo of me and him,
I
I'm
can
beaming
imagine.
from ear to ear like we just got married. It's literally like you just see my cheesiness. I'll see if
Enough
I
to
can
make
find
your
it and
wife
send it to
jealous.
you. I was so embarrassed. I was looking at it and I was like, oh my gosh. But that's what fandoms do.
No,
Like, we get that
that's a thing I've
opportunity.
often said.
Mhm.
Actually, that's sociologically speaking, the link I personally see, jumping a bit ahead in what we're going to talk about today, but we'll return to it later. But the link I see, because a lot of people are like, why do so many nerds? Why do so many fans? Why do so many geeks get tattooed? Well, tattoos do really well with passion,
Yeah.
and fandoms live on passion. So
Yes, they do.
that's the connecting link there. There's a reason I have a Star Wars sleeve. There's a reason I probably will never regret that sleeve as well. And that's because tattoos getting a lot of longevity
Hmm.
for being about things we're passionate about, even if they don't have deep meaning, because they mean something to us having that tattooed just.
Hmm.
But then it also gains further longevity by the passion we keep having for the thing it's about, you know?
And how that can change through certain things.
Absolutely.
You
I
know,
mean,
that there's
meaning
so
can
many.
evolve. Meaning can
Yeah,
absolutely
that's
evolve.
why we get stuff covered up. You know, seeing a lot of folks that went
Yes.
from having certain things to black sleeves, seeing that black sleeve
I
movement
mean,
for
we
a few
talked about a certain
years,
author
and
earlier.
now,
There are a
yeah,
fair
and
few people that have gotten some
yes,
Harry Potter tattoos covered up by now.
I have a. That comes down to each individual. I've had a lot of folks
Absolutely,
that
absolutely.
that come to me and they're like, I'm afraid to talk about it anymore, and they are gay and they have things to it. It's to me, I try to meet everybody where they're at with
Exactly.
that.
But I think that's a beautiful thing with tattooing, because I could use my Star Wars sleeve as an example again. It is custom made characters, though people think one of them is Ahsoka because it's the same species and she's about the same age. Not exactly, not it's not
Hmm.
Ahsoka, but oh well, you have to be really specific nerd to know
Right.
that. But these two ladies here, one's a Sith, one's a Jedi. But that's because the reason I wanted custom characters that are original is because it's my fandom. I don't want
Yes.
it to be about any specific characters that where people then come and pick it apart and all that stuff. Because I
Yes.
have a very profound love of Star Wars, even the shit other people hate sometimes. But the thing is, that's me creating that. And for other people that are even fans of Harry Potter with the contentious, to be honest, horrible woman, if I to be very honest at the
She
moment,
who must not be
that
named.
created
Like
it.
she named
Uh,
herself.
the thing is, I get separating the art from the artist, and especially the memories it's had, because many of us, even when I read Harry Potter originally, I thought it was all queer characters here and there and all this
Yep.
stuff. And I could name several characters in it that seem trans and non-binary and all that stuff. Like, it's wild that she doesn't seem aware of this herself. So I get, in that case, separating it, because you've created your understanding of it that actually talks about the stuff that the author is against. You know,
Yes.
and I get making tattoos as well, and that's the beauty with tattoos. You can make a creative version of this in your own inspiration together with a great artist that alludes to what you specifically like about this universe.
Agree. I think with
I love
those
that
things,
stuff.
no, I think with those things, we do come to a place where we just kind of like put it in there. If Twitter and all the things, Instagram were back in the day
Hmm.
when Lewis Carroll was writing books and he did something like this, it would profoundly affect, the love of Alice in Wonderland. I think it's because she won't stop. And that's
Yeah,
where, like,
that's the thing.
when
I get that.
I pulled
Absolutely.
back completely. I pulled back away because right now I'm not going to promote future things, but like there
Oh,
is a
absolutely
love
not.
that I have for the movies and the books, but it's in a different place than it was. And I think with that,
Absolutely.
that's everybody.
Yeah,
That's wherever you're at with that is because it's one of those hard topics, and I don't want to hurt feelings, and I don't want to have my feelings hurt,
absolutely.
and it's just a really it's in an interesting space.
Yes. But I mean, there are luckily plenty of nerdy fandoms to pick from when it comes to
Yes.
tattoos. But I always find it interesting because whenever you go to, there's a reason you have stuff like Anime Ink Con in your own convention
Hmm.
nowadays. Because when you go to comic book conventions, you almost see as many tattoos as you do at a tattoo convention at them,
You
right?
do. You do. There's a lot of people that are tattooing at those now too. I mean,
Oh yeah, it's true.
the world of tattooing blew up when, Ink Master came out. They did a lot of great things
True.
for the industry. I know that you can't get a sleeve in a day, and some people kind of expect that from
Oh no.
things that they've seen on the show, but they made it okay. Hey,
Hmm.
if you want a tattoo below your sleeve, you can get one. It is an accepted thing. And I think that
Yeah.
opened up the world for other people seeing it. And a lot of the folks that come to me are getting Disney tattoos or getting, I want a floral sleeve. I had the opportunity to tattoo an Australian gentleman. I think it was like my second or
Oh.
third year, he's in the Guinness Book of World Records right now. His name is, as I'm lost, but he got all of native plants on him
Oh
and
wow! I know of
flowers
this guy.
and endangered
I can't
species.
remember the name either. An elderly gentleman
Yes.
teacher, and he has all these
Yes.
and he has a
Super
teddy in the middle of
amazing
his chest.
man.
Yeah, I know of him. I have a book somewhere, old
Yep.
bookish magazine where he's in as well. I know who you're talking about. I have also blanked completely on
Completely
this
on
poor
his
man's
name.
name, but it is
Um,
quite fascinating.
he was, and it was just I didn't do anything new. He was just like, I want, my flowers were red, they're now like a lot, how tattoos fade. He's like, color this in.
Yeah,
And him
yeah,
and
yeah.
his partner came over to the States. They were hanging out with somebody that the shop owner got tattooed. He got tattooed by the shop owner, and all of them got something sweet. And I was like, this is insane. I mean, I'd only been tattooing for like 2 days, and here I am getting to tattoo somebody who understands, the whole thing behind it. He explained, when I was teaching, I started
Hmm.
doing everything underneath, underneath, underneath. As soon as I left and stopped teaching, I got my sleeves, I got my dome. It was just wild. It was an insane story. It was great.
I mean, the people you meet in this industry, that's always, if there's
Yes.
one thing I would be jealous of with tattooers, it's the incredible and very, in the best way possible, often eccentric people you guys
Hmm.
meet at times. Like, for as many regular folk walk-ins you also get these, in the
Gems.
best possible way, weirdos, these gems of people that just come in like, I have this fascination with squirrels, I've got this leg sleeve that's just,
Yep.
oh, you know.
I recently this year I finished It's So Wild. The gentleman who he owns an automotive company in town, and he's like,
All right.
I really love Scrooge McDuck, and I said, all right. And so we did a full sleeve of Scrooge McDuck dealing with money. Instead of having his nephews, he has two little girls, so he put them as the ducklings.
Jesus.
I mean, it was awesome. Who gets to do that? I'm like, call me.
I
I
mean,
got you, boo.
that is incredible. But that's the thing. Like,
Yeah.
people don't believe it sometimes when you tell about it, because when you say you have nerdy tattoos, they're like, can tattoos be nerdy? It's like, you have no idea the
Yes.
amount. Because even when you meet not very nerdy people, that are fully covered in tattoos, they have at least 2 or 3
Yes.
nerdy tattoos. Like, nerdy stuff is just great for it. Like, I have plenty nerdy tattoos planned in the future as well. Like, I
Mhm.
do want to one day have June tattooed on me.
Yeah,
Some
you
Dune
were talking
tattoo.
about that. I
Yeah.
actually got to do a Dune half sleeve and peck.
Oh wow.
We used some different scenes from the movie. He wanted it all in black
Okay.
and gray. This was like when we first opened Mainline in 2013. And when he came in, I was
Wow.
like, oh, wait, okay, wait, I know what you're talking about. So I'd seen it when I was a kid, but you just didn't put it
Oh,
back
the old
in.
movie.
Yeah, the original movie. So
Jesus.
it was David Lynch who did it, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. I'll say this. I love the newer ones better because they're
Me too.
better, more like the books. And the thing is, not even Patrick Stewart, which is saying a lot, could save that old movie. Like it was campy, it's fun, but it's better watched as a comedy, especially
Yes.
when you see Sting.
Yes. Very, very. Oh my gosh, all of it. Very true.
Like Sting is purely there for straight women to be like, damn, that's Sting.
I mean, he's the man. But yeah,
I
no,
mean,
I like
yeah,
the newer ones too.
nothing against Sting.
Nothing
It's
ever
great.
against Sting. He was in that Frankenstein movie from a really long
Mm.
time ago. The
See,
man
this is
just
the
pops
thing.
up in
When you
wild
get tattooed
places.
nerds together, there's so much
I know,
shit going
right?
on.
I'm sitting here, I've got fields of gold going on in the background right now. We're good for
Oh
the rest of
man.
the interview.
But actually, I was curious because I did have a look at the artists that are going and all that stuff, and
Hmm.
some of the authors you have coming as well. Because that's the thing.
Yes.
There's a certain bit of the convention. There's also a bit of like a book convention where you
Hmm.
have special guests who are authors. Now I'm not too into the book scene enough to know all these names that are coming to your convention, but they mainly seem to be writing fantasy. Are you more geared towards that for the con, or are you thinking of a sci-fi
I think it's
aspect to it as
open
well
to
on there?
whatever it is for you. And you're
All right.
talking about a little bit, and it might have been one of the questions you sent for me to read, but a lot of the things I feel like people are getting tattooed now are things that really meant so much to them when they were
Hmm.
younger. We're so
Yeah.
influenced. I remember seeing Star Wars for the first time as a 5-year-old,
Mm.
6-year-old when it was played on TV. And just
Yeah.
seeing this character of Luke, he will probably always remain my favorite, even though they did some really weird shit with him in the last three. And my Luke would have never done that. Just saying. But anyway, the love that I had for that character, same with Christopher Reeve as Superman, the
Yeah.
love that I had for the
Mm.
good guy, the guy that's like, no matter what's happening, he's still going to
Classic good
save
guy.
you. Yes. And I have Clark Kent on my shin. I have Mary Poppins on my arm. I have the
Ooh.
things that when I was a kid made me feel good. And, sometimes when the world is crazy, the things that you got when you were a kid, getting that tattoo and remembering this
Mm.
moment of like Mary Poppins, a spoonful of sugar. Okay, I got today. I
Absolutely.
got today.
Yeah.
So I'm covered in the things that bring me just joy and bring me memories of that moment. And that's how.
Absolutely. Also, sometimes think like, and I got inspired by this. This is gonna sound weird, but I just had the memory just popped in my head as you were talking there. But it's a theory I had as well about why people suddenly get the idea, nerds, to get a tattoo. And sometimes they don't have many. Like for us, it's easier. We probably like tattoos for as long
Mhm.
as we've liked the nerdy stuff. So it's just like they two
Oh
collide
yeah.
at some point. But for others, and I got inspired by this from watching Warhammer fans at one point, just one day when I was just in a nerdy hole on YouTube. And the thing is, I think sometimes passion gets so big that you can't contain it within you anymore. You're just like, I gotta do something. And then tattoos are a great way to be like, yes, this is a great way to get this passion out there to show people how much I love this thing,
Agree. I think it's an amazing way. When most of the time, if it's a first time or if it's somebody who's coming in and getting something
Uh,
real meaningful, I said, how does it look? Do you love it? And they're like, I love it. I said, does it feel like it was always meant to be there? And they're like, yeah. And I've never had anybody say no, thank goodness.
no.
But like, it is.
Well,
We're
that would be a
claiming
nightmare
that.
if you sat there with
I
them
know.
and they go
I'd
like,
probably be like, oh, well, we can
oh,
black it out. We
oh.
can take a Brillo pad to it.
the
I also
the
have a
bus
saw that
the
says tattoo
bus card
removal.
of tattooing. We can black it out.
I think anything is a good challenge when it comes to cover ups. I always kind
Yeah,
of find a way around it. So,
yeah, absolutely. But what I'm curious, this is jumping ahead again because I can't help but ask these lighthearted questions. You're such a jovial person, to be honest. What's been your
I'm
favorite
actually
fandom to tattoo?
dark. I'm
Oh
just kidding.
shit! Going into. Let me see if I can put Fallout Boy on in the background.
People are gonna watch this and be like, "She's crazy." I
Thieves.
know.
Yeah, that sounds better in your dialect, honestly, to be like, thief cry. This woman's
So
like
sorry.
two
What is your
biscuits.
question?
It was what's been your favorite fandom? Is there a specific fandom that stands out to you? Like, this is my favorite to choose from, or what did you think is the big one now?
I can tell you what the big one is now, what's coming. And
Oh,
it's because I'm watching it at the convention. I've known it for a minute. Sarah J. Mass, A Court of Thorn and Roses.
okay.
There is Crescent City. She started writing when she was 16, and she has these epic sweeping books, and there were 3 different series. And this past year, you find out that all 3 series are about to meet, that it's a full-on mass
Wow.
universe. So we've got lots of dragons, we've got lots of fairies, we've got people that are getting more actual. Here's all these books. Here's a stack of books. Here's my favorite books. Here's some flowers. That's been happening for a minute. In the last year and a half, 2.5 years, I've started watching dragons come back, fairies come back,
Yeah.
fae come back. Like you're seeing that come
Now that you
through.
say it, I've noticed that
Yeah.
too. That is coming back lately,
You can
which I
literally,
don't mind
I
actually, because
can
it's a
look at the
better version of it.
convention and see what people have read.
Yeah. I'll say this though, I think they look better, the fairies and dragons people are getting nowadays, than what we used to
For
have.
sure. For
I mean,
sure.
I'll say that much. That's why I'm not minding it coming back. There were some very suspicious looking fairies back in the day
The
getting
faces
tattooed
when,
on
like, you've
people.
got a fairy that's this big and they're like, wow, they just have a black circle for their face.
One that looks like they found it in a bottle of absinthe back in the
For sure, for sure. Yes, that.
but that's an interesting thing, because like with myself, with going back to my fandom of Dune, I want it based on the books, but I think that's a thing as well. I've noticed with some book nerds that get tattooed, that they like the fact that this is not based on something that already
Yeah,
has a visual representation. So they need an artist that knows it too, or can at
yeah.
least interpret what they're telling them. And then other people that are in the know can interpret that too. And for others, it's just, oh, that's a cool dragon, or that's a cool fairy, or that's
Hmm.
I think there's something to solving that puzzle that they like as well.
I had a lady who came in. She was getting tattooed by Neil, so he's like my booth mate over here.
Oh
And
yeah.
I looked at, she had a dragon on her back and it had flowers on it. And I said, "Is that a Braxos?" And she turned up and she goes, "No, but I love that book series." She goes, "Because I love all these things, I'm getting this dragon that's just a dragon and flowers with it." But to
Mm,
me, I saw it as a Braxis. So I understand what you're saying. And that's the best part. It's just like any other painting, or if you go to a museum, you are not going to
mm,
feel what the person beside you's feeling, what the person 10 feet over is feeling, but you might feel what somebody came in yesterday. Those things are just, that's the best part about art. And one thing
mm.
I tell everybody is we are moving museums. Our
Absolutely.
art renaissance is happening on the street. You've got tattooers
Absolutely.
from street shops to people who are like painting Renaissance paintings on you. And you know what? None of it's wrong. Whatever it
No,
is
no,
that
no,
you're
no, no.
most attracted to, and you saying, well, as of right now, Sarah J. Maas hasn't released any TV, any movie, but it's coming, which means at some point we're going to have a visual representation of what we've been talking about. But you hit the nail on the head. You find an artist where you're like, oh my gosh, and I tell everybody to do this at my shop. Flip through the books, and when you're like, everything this person does, oh my, I just love it. Well, guess what? That's your artist.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's the thing. But it's also like with me, I love when if it's based on a book at least, I love if the artists have read it too, because then we can create something
Yes.
where people that have read it will know it.
No.
But because that's the thing for me, weirdly enough, my nightmare when I finally get my Dune tattoo is basing it off the movie. Because I'd much
Yes.
rather have it be deeper than that. And that's one of the nerdiest things I've ever decided with a tattoo. But
I,
that is
I
sort of the
think you're
thing for me.
right,
I'd
though.
much rather have it based on the
Yeah.
books and have people know it from some of the inspiration and be able to tell. But only the people that really are into it, like myself, would be like going up, oh, is that Duncan, Idaho?
Yeah.
Is that gonna be fucking, there's
You're going to
so
have to
many
put
characters.
a call out. I'm looking for a tattoo artist who I love that has read the
Oh
books.
no, I already know who, but I will give
Oh,
her
good.
some visual help. I don't know if she's
Heard.
actually read it, but she will be great. But that's more because she has a really good gothic style, which when you read the
Oh,
books, that is what's gonna go so well with June. Because I do
I
like
can't wait to see it.
the newer visual representations, but when you read Frank Herbert's original books, it's just way more gothic. Like it's so space opera.
Oh, I love that space opera.
That is the
That's
thing
I'm gonna maybe steal that
if we're going
name
to talk about
later.
nerdy things, I want to come back. Space operas, I would love to come
Yeah, well,
back.
I'm like, yeah, I mean, Flash Gordon. I may steal that name later, just so you know, because we theme everything out. So just hang on. Space opera, that's the best.
Well, I mean that's what I used. That's at least what I've heard them called. Some of the big old epics. I mean, the
Yeah.
new Dune films by Villeneuve, those are space operas too, but it's these, grandiose, bigger than the world we have, imaginative worlds they built. I mean, Star Wars is also that to some extent, but
Yes.
Flash Gordon's a great example too. There's been loads in a weird way, even though jury's out on whether this movie is good. It's sort of a cult classic by now, but the John Carter movie, or what it was called, the one where he goes, there's this, he basically teleports to Mars through magic, and there's this whole, I think it was called John Carter, but that's in a weird way, no matter if you like the movie or not, that's also like this epic, like space opera, worlds bigger
Hmm.
than you imagine, and all the, I like that stuff. Like sort of Castlevania meets sci-fi in a way. Instead of
Yes.
other people love, and that's the thing about nerdiness. I love this as well, but this is also one that's been tattooed more times than I could ever imagine. But others like the cramped, like claustrophobic nature of the Alien franchise, for example.
Oh yeah. We had just recently. I work with a lady named Morgan, and she is an alien lover. And Seth, Art by Seth on Instagram, just recently tattooed a xenomorph on the back of her, almost like a little pinup. Well, yeah, it was awesome looking. It was so good. It was just
Talking
it.
about free interpretation and
Oh,
expression,
for
that's the
real.
thing I
Yeah.
love. Like,
It was awesome. Like I said, I work with a bunch of crazies.
I did see
Uh,
one once where the mouth is out, just xenomorph head, bow on here, and then lipstick on the little
Oh
mouth.
my God, yes. I know what you're talking about. There's some really nerdy tattoos out there that just slap, and you're kind of like, I would have never thought to do this, nor would I ever wear this, but it makes my
That's the
heart
thing.
happy to see it.
Because I think they have another thing in common with at least the tattoo world of today. Like, a lot of people don't take it too seriously. That's the beauty
Hmm.
of it. Like, they can have fun with it. They can have a laugh
Hmm.
with it. They can be their own thing.
Hmm.
And I love that. Like, I truly love that. I hate when, as a massive nerd myself, I hate when I meet other nerds. They're like, "No, you're into the thing I'm into wrong." And it's like, you can't. It's not. None of you made it. You can enjoy it however you wish to. It's not a wrong way to do it.
I agree. It goes back to that painting. We're all going to interpret it a little differently, and it's okay
Exactly.
to see it from every side. Just
Exactly.
put your perspective shoes on for somebody else for a minute and let it go.
That is the only part of nerd culture sometimes that don't like it. There are some people that they are rare, but there are people like that in the tattoo world as well. But like, you're not doing this right. You need to do it this way.
Mhm.
It's just there's this territorialness that I think comes from them fearing that they might have an irrelevance, or they might feel alienated by what's going on
Yeah.
or changing times and that. And then usually when that happens, people sort of put up the defenses and go like, no, this is what it's like, and we have to defend and protect. And this is what the culture is. Whereas, especially speaking as a cultural sociologist, culture's ever evolving. Anybody that can't accept that fact will have a rough time of it, because culture's never static. That's the one
Agree.
thing a lot of more conservative idealisms get wrong, that they think culture can be made static. It's not. Culture's ever evolving. It always changes. No person is the same. So the more people you mix and the more new people get into it, the more it'll change.
Hmm.
And I think that's the beauty of it, that we can sit here and reminisce about what we loved about Star Wars, and then other people might like a different part of it, and then they'll love it for different reasons than us, and others might love the same stuff as us, but for a wholly different reason as well.
Agree. There was some
Wonderful.
when Hayden Christensen came back out and he was doing a
Ooh.
Comic-Con, he's like, "Where were all of you, when this was happening so many years ago?" They were all 5, 6, and 7, bro. It's the
Yep.
same as, whatever Star Wars was happening when you grew up, generally is the
Yeah.
one where you're like, these are the best. And I'm like, no, dog,
I mean, I
no,
mean, you
the
do have
original.
weirdos like me that just love it all. I mean, Star Wars is
Yes,
like cake to me. Even when it's not the best, it's still cake, and I will
it's
still
still
eat it.
cake. Yes, agree,
Like,
agree.
that's how I feel about it. People are like, "Oh, it was so good." Was shit. No, I fucking loved it. I really fucking loved it. I enjoyed that full on.
There's been several movies that have been put out or something that's come out, and I was like, I was just excited to get back to that world.
Hmm.
Because so many people are like, it was just so awful. And I was like, yeah, but you got to see this, this, and this, and
Yeah,
I agree. And sometimes straight up, it is
fully.
a crappy movie, or it is a crappy book, or it is a, one of my recent, I was waiting for this book to drop, and it dropped, and I feel like it is more filler than anything else because it's the third in a
Oh,
series. And I'm like,
oh,
it had like a few chapters that I was just like, this is so engaging. This is so great. And I have hope for what's coming because sometimes you do
mm,
have to fill the universe with, I'm doing all of this for a reason, but you're not always going to get the best. And sometimes that's
no.
okay because you
I
got a
mean,
couple of glistening gems in there.
you
So
would know as well as a person working through earning a living through your creativity as well,
yeah,
that you can't always have the same wealth of inspiration as you had before, and you experiment and you try to reinvent, because whenever you do the same thing for too long, at least I mean I'm looking from the outside in here,
yeah,
so it's mainly from analysis I would say, but I've never met a creative person, no matter if they're a musician, a writer, a painter, or a tattoo artist, that can do the same thing forever and be satisfied.
agree. I
You
came from a
want to
background.
experiment and explore.
And I think that's the best part. I come from a graphic design background. I've always done art, but I actually have my degree in graphic design. And I literally went to school to learn how to, what I jokingly say, to use my iPad and my computer. I never got a graphic design job. I literally went straight into tattooing afterwards.
Mm,
But graphic designers have to produce every day.
yeah.
They're in an environment where you have to come up with something and it has to be different and it has to be like, marketable
Mm,
and it has to be this. And tattooers, I feel like we have to produce every day. And I've done a lot of different things from several different fandoms. Star Wars, Alice in Wonderland, and some of the wizardry stuff has been the most that I have ever tattooed. I remember
oh
at one point
wow.
I had 5 different sleeves going on of the same thing because people wanted the same thing. So sitting down, I had to take different notes and start going, okay, I'm going to pull this from here. I'm going to do this here. And none of them were the same, minus a few
Mm,
objects, because you want to give them what means something to them. And then also,
absolutely.
I'm not going to keep doing the exact same tattoo over and
You would
over
shoot
again because
yourself.
that's the only imagery you have. If they're like, I really want like this thing. And I'm like, okay, we'll figure it out.
That is the most tattoo artist answer the last bit ever. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. I
Like
mean,
I
that's the
always
best
imagine
part.
Jack Nicholson stand up. Well, Sally, we'll figure it out.
That's it. But I love that part of the job.
I
I
get
have,
that, because I think it's the same thing that I always get such a green flag, to use a younger person's term, which
mhm.
popped into my head there. when I meet an artist that like the fact that, hey, come with your idea, not
Yeah.
a drawing, but your idea, because that challenges them. So they're like, hey, yeah, I know I don't do that normally, but fuck it, let's do that. Let's
Yeah.
do that shit. Because there's something beautiful about a creative that's like, hey, yeah, fuck it, let's try something new.
My
And
favorite
thank you for the
part is,
inspiration. Thank you for the push towards
yeah,
this. Like,
I tell any client that I can do any idea they have just in my style. So, yet going back to the look through the
of course.
portfolios, if you love everything that I do,
Absolutely,
we're gonna
absolutely.
have that conversation. I have people who
But
came
that's the
in.
thing. Like some people, when they do that, they'll be like, "Oh, this guy does mainly dragons. Oh, I'm not gonna ask him to do this
Oh yeah,
vampire." But that's the thing. If you like the style, try and ask, because some artists really thrive for that. Like, oh fuck, I've not done a vampire before. Fuck, let me do a
yeah. Let
vampire in
me
my
do that.
style
Yeah.
then, and that inspires you. Then you've, like it happened to Dakota, who I interviewed. He was rehashing this story from the episode. It's in that episode. It's already out, but he was talking about getting this wine glass done. This guy normally does women's faces. He
Yeah.
was like, hey, if you don't feel comfortable doing it, we won't do that. We'll do something else. But I wanted to do for you, but I would really love a wine glass. And the guy ran with it and said, fuck it. Let's see.
I want to do
Now
it. Yeah.
he just keeps getting asked to do these wine glasses because it's turned out so well in his
Mhm.
style. I love that stuff.
Agree. And sometimes you don't even know what it is, and then it slaps, and all of a sudden you've got this many views, and you're like, what just
Absolutely.
happened?
Do you actually, that reminds me of something else. Do you ever get surprised by something new? Like, does a client come to you, especially younger clients, I guess, with like a fandom you've never heard before, and then you feel like, I gotta research this, and then you get
Yes.
into it?
Yes. I read the first Wheel of Time book, or started it, because I was trying to understand some of the things that were happening. The TV show came out and I fell in love. I was like, wow. But yes, several times. I was looking for a new book series. Um, and I read a Court of Thorn and Roses. And I just kept talking to my friends. I'm like, she's so whiny. She's so whiny. She's so whiny. She's so whiny. And one of them was like, okay, look, let's go back, read the first Throne of Glass. I got through 6 books in 5 weeks. I just got
Damn.
sucked in, and I've still got 3 to go. I've kind of paused because I'll generally, when I'm tattooing, if the client's face down or if I'm not able to talk because I can't hear great all the time, I'll put in my earbuds. They will, yeah, exactly. Put them in and go from there. But I'm back on podcast for just a minute. So I'll
Oh,
sweep through my podcast, go to books and go back to podcast because that way I can listen to
nice.
several in a row. So I'm on a break right now, but I've got 3 books to go and it just saved me during a crazy time. I started reading it.
Mm,
I started reading them uh late October and just kind of used that as an escape for a hot minute
nice.
and just fell in love. It's a female heroine. She has so many issues. She
Nice.
has so much, coming at her, and she still is going to succeed. And yes, she ends up having, being thrown down. I've given up, but then she's coming back around. So it's been one of the books that has gotten me like pulled in
Mm,
that I haven't been in a long time. And you'd
nice.
asked earlier something I love. Stephen King is probably my top
I mean,
author,
I get it. As much as I'm
period.
not a horror guy, I do get the
Oh,
appeal because
King is amazing
I've read
though.
short stories from him
Yeah.
when I was in high school learning English, and he's an incredible writer. Like when he
Oh,
gets it right, and I know that
he's
people keep
better than
telling me
he
to
ever
read
was.
what's it called, the Tower series, or what's
The
it
Dark
called,
Tower series, that's
the
probably my
Dark Tower
favorite
series.
set from him.
Yeah.
That's probably my favorite set. When I was 17, my best friend handed me the book It, and she goes, "After you get past the first 300 pages, it just goes really fast." And I said, "I'm just now reading books with 300 pages." But she was right, and she put me on
That was
this.
actually me with Dune to my best
Yeah.
mate. It was like,
Oh,
after you get past the first 300,
yes.
it gets, I mean,
It's
it's
so
great for the
good.
first 300 too, but the pace picks up quite a lot after that.
Yes, but the Dark Tower series drew me in. I started reading it. His horror isn't scary to me. It can be like these moments of real, and then
Mm,
yes, but as he's gotten older, the Mercedes series,
mm,
amazing. It pulled me back in, and I was like, oh my gosh! I mean, he's just matured as himself, which is awesome. You
nice.
started off with Carrie, and it's just like any artist, any tattooer, any painter. You start off with this one thing, and then you see 30, 40 years down the
I
road
think
where
there's
you're
a lot
like,
more
look at what I've
similarities
done.
to those two, to writing and tattooing, and I mean many creative arts that people sometimes realize.
Yeah.
At least in
I
the
think
creative aspects. I
everybody
mean,
is creative.
I get when you write, you don't really, you can sit there in a cave and not
Yeah.
interact with anybody. But in the creative aspect, there's a lot more similarities.
I think with anybody, we all have some creative type thing. I've had so many people
Mm.
that a friend of mine who does these, she's like, I'm just not that creative. And she's like almost like a florist when she's putting flowers together. I'm
Fucking
like,
hell.
you may not think you are, but look at this. So, to
but
me,
but
if you want it bad enough though, like I've had so many
uh,
people, I wish I could draw. And I'm like, practice.
mm,
Practice will win
that's
out
true.
talent every day if
The,
talent
the
doesn't get up.
the only caveat I will say, and that's just because I'm a pedantic asshole of a social scientist, the older you get, the more knowledge you already have, the more difficult it is to learn a new skill. But it can still be done. It just requires a lot more
A
effort
lot more. And
and a
that's the
lot
word
more
right
time.
there. You just said
But
it.
but
Effort.
but I will say this: enjoy while you're young, especially
Mhm.
that you can really like anything you want to be good at. I'd rather say, because
Yeah.
success is a whole lot of pet peeve of mine when you get into hustle culture. People say if you work hard, you'll no. It's of course part of it, but let me not get into that rabbit hole actually. But you can absolutely gain skills by practice.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Inborn talent is of course always also a thing to some extent, but you can absolutely gain these skills through practice. Because especially when you're younger, it is a much more powerful thing than talent. Practicing something.
Yeah. Like I said, practicing will always outweigh people who have it if they don't use it.
Yeah,
We're all gifted in
absolutely.
different areas. I feel like I had a better understanding of like marketing and running a business than I did
Hmm.
or do of understanding art to a certain degree. But I try really hard to the things that I keep questioning. Why am I doing this? Like I was talking to Seth, I feel like I want to go back and have another color theory class. And he's like,
Hmm.
you're doing everything every day. He goes, you may not know the name of what you're doing. He goes, but when you're picking these colors, you're doing exactly what you're
That's
supposed to.
weirdly me with English. Like I can't teach English because I don't know the rules, but I've learned it fluently throughout
Right.
school and
Yeah.
high school and that. Like I can't tell you. why the grammar is the way it is. I just do it.
It's wild. I have the very first apprentice I ever had, who has been with me for almost 8 years. Amazing guy. He
Still
came from
apprenticing?
Cuba.
Okay.
No. He actually he taught college in Cuba. The man's
Wow.
amazing, like amazing painter. I didn't quite know. I mean, I saw his work before we started apprenticing.
Yeah.
But I always bring that up just because it's been so wild to be with him for so long. You would not believe how much I've learned from him. But speaking of accents, when he first got there, everything was so thick, and he would be like, "Slow down to me, slow down, slow down." And
I
there
mean,
was
you do have quite the distinct dialect.
so did he. I do not talk that way, Jennifer. And I'm like, no, you do. But
I mean, yeah.
there was one day we were sitting together, and my business partner came over, and he asked him a question, and he responded. This is one of my favorite stories to tell. He asked him a question, and he responded. And my business partner looked at me, and I said, he said, da 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 da. And in that moment, I looked at Anil, and I was like, man, we have been spending so much time together. Because at that point, I could hear him so crystal clear, and I was looking at him
Nice.
going, why didn't you understand what he said? But that was such a huge thing. And I feel like, because we've had a lot of Australians
Interesting.
and English folks and Italians come to literary, now we've got people who just travel to the shop because we're just hanging out,
I mean,
which
it does
blows
look.
my mind.
You have gotten quite the robust and very keen following for both your shop and the convention. But I think that's exactly because of, you said already very early on when I think it was either right before we started recording or right when we started recording, that you carved out a space for these people to feel at home. And I think
Yeah.
that's very true, because that most conventions don't focus that neatly on like, oh yeah, you are a nerd. Well, here you are. There are some nowadays, but the thing is, those spaces are also needed, because the nerds have always loved tattoos. Yet we haven't had a convention that's like, hey, you
This
like
is for
fantasy
you.
and sci-fi books? Right
Yes.
here, we'll have authors coming. We'll have tattoo artists. There'll be vendors. Come on down.
And it's any book lover, whether it's comic books to short stories, choose your own adventure. I think the thing with that is, when we started the show, I'd been to a couple conventions before. I mean, only like a couple, and I was just like, wow, nobody cares that we're here. Or if I had a question, it was kind of difficult. Which when we started the show, after the show, I started seeing a lot more themed conventions pop up. I started seeing a lot more people take the time to make sure that everyone's having a good time. Your tattoo artist, your vendors.
Absolutely.
You would not believe how many vendors came up to me that said we were never allowed in the green room. And I'm like, what?
Fucking
Like,
hell.
people are here for, like, it should be fun for everyone. It should feel like a giant hug. In my opinion, we're all coming together for a weekend. Yes, let's have some awesome food. Let's have some awesome tattoos. We do things before and after our show, and my favorite thing always is the ending, which is a book-themed drag show. And it has been, oh, did you not know? You got to come to this thing one time. We have had the most insane drag shows that I've ever seen.
I've actually not been to a drag show yet, but it is on my list of things to try.
Oh, for sure. Well, this one's even more fun because
it looks like a lot of fun, to be honest.
We've had some book characters. Khaleesi was there last year, and she was throwing dragons. I'm not kidding. It was like, are you kidding me? Awesome. It was so great. And the best part, I tattoo all of them. This is hometown. Most every volunteer we have at the show who's there giving just their smiles. We've tattooed all of them.
Main Street or Mainline?
Main Street. Well, Mainline tattoo on Main Street.
Well, I mean, if that couldn't be easy.
What's really funny is when we didn't know, we had already named the shop before we found out where we were going. And that to me was kismet. I was like, well, this is where we belong. And that was it.
Why the fuck not?
Yeah. It was really, really, it was one of those awesome moments.
Main Street tattoo once in a small, tiny Scottish town that was just called Main Street.
Main Street. That's hilarious.
That's one.
I mean, it's a good name. Yeah.
I mean, if you ever meet Scottish people, that's very much their humor being like, I wonder if they'll notice the fun of this.
That's almost with everything I do in my life.
Yeah, you
like double entendre. Woo!
I mean, if you can handle they swear as much as me, a lot of them, you'll be fucking great.
Oh, I swear a lot too. My aunt always said, that's this, and I'm like, all words are made up. It's the intent behind them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when I was in high school, my soccer coach was like, you cuss worse than my boys. And I said, thank you.
Well, damn, sir. That's
hot
Well, damn, sir, they should get to school for that.
Yeah, for real. I've always been a little bit of a cusser, and it was really funny. You said something earlier that reminded me of a story, so I'm going to tell you this. You said we see tattoos, younger. We want to get them when we're older. I knew that I wanted to be a tattoo artist when I was like 10 years old. My uncle came home,
Nice.
and he had the outline of a back piece. It was a skull and all this stuff, and my grandmother yelled out the window, "No, you don't! Don't even think about it." And I was like, "I want one." And I got a
Again,
tiny.
your accent does so much heavy lifting with setting the entire scene. I imagine a porch door and him being cussed out through it.
It was
Spring
a true
day
moment.
down south, and like it's almost like
Yeehaw!
it's almost like a period movie from the south.
It was sweeping. When I ended up, asking originally to get taught, it was like
Yeah.
tattooing was still on the back burner. I went and did, I ran stores. I was a store manager for Blockbuster, for Walmart. I went to school. I learned about marketing. I learned about graphic
Blockbuster was a
design.
place we went in and rented movies kits
Yes,
before
it
you
was
could
the
stream
best
them.
place in the world. I was the
It was
crazy
actually great.
short-haired
We had it in
lesbian.
Denmark too. It was
Yeah, I
everywhere.
know, right? I was jumping up on the counters Friday night and throwing out popcorn. Like, who is answering this? I was always
Ah.
that nut. And that was a big part of, even what I do now. This to
Hmm.
me, sharing that moment with your client, that one-on-one, whether they're coming
Hmm.
into you to get a memorial piece because, they're trying to work through something, whether they're coming to get a screwed sleeve because that was, one of their favorite things that they
Hmm.
watched as a kid, or whether you went to high school with them and you got to tattoo them and then you got to tattoo their daughter like I have.
Oh,
That is an amazing thing to look at my life and go, look at how many storylines came from art, not even
absolutely.
tattooing, art. It's just
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing to share with somebody. And like you said, people are coming and they're like, I want to pick this out because I like your art. I know you're the person that I'm going to get to do this. Could you do a little bit more research? One of the coolest things about tattoo artists is they know a little bit of everything from almost every end
That is
because we've
honestly
had to
true.
look
That was
so
one of
much
my
stuff
points
up.
earlier. That for example, I've not done this myself. I don't think it's happened at least with any of mine. But I've known people where they're like, "Oh, I got my favorite anime tattooed," but the
Yeah.
artist didn't know it. But then they got into watching the anime
And
because
they
they've been
from it. Yeah.
researching for it. And I
Yes.
like that idea that, like, especially with nerdy tattoos, this must have happened to you as well. Somebody will
Avatar.
come
Yeah.
in wanting a tattoo from a fandom you don't know, and then you research and you're like, "Shit, this is good."
Yes, that's happened more often than not, and sometimes so much so that I'm like, I wish I had more time in my day, because as tattoo artists, and most tattoo artists are going to say
Yeah,
exactly this, it's almost like
yeah.
we're listening to a radio station because we're drawing.
Mm,
And we're
yeah.
listening to this story in the background. And if you have,
No,
ADD, you're
you
literally
don't
listening
watch
to
it.
the
You're
story.
just
You're
like,
you know what's going on. I'll be drawing and like an hour in. Jessica's like, "Oh, I didn't know what happened." I was like, "Sally was behind the door with this." Da, 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 da. And she goes, and I'm just like,
yeah.
I don't even know. But it's tuning in for me. You have
Yeah.
something crazy going on out
No,
here, and then all of a
I
sudden,
get it. I'm the same way. Like,
yeah,
in these interviews, to give people a little sneak peek behind the scenes of one of my superpowers, so to speak. I use my ADD. I'm not diagnosed, but whatever it is, fucking around with my neurodivergence. I use that to remember what you've been talking about, so I can go back to it and then plan the
yeah,
next question, which is quite a good skill. And I've not met many that can interview like that. They usually need a
yeah.
list in front of them and stuff like that, which
Mhm.
I don't. I've not even scrolled through. This new program I'm using now allows me to have this my questions above me and
It's
Jen
still out there
here while
saying,
we talk.
"Hello, meet Jennifer Edge."
No, but I've not had to read it because this is flowing quite nicely. But
Yeah.
the thing is, I can easily take what Jennifer is saying and then be like, all right, we'll get back to that in a bit. Let Jen
Hmm.
tell her story.
Very awesome.
But the thing is, I love these things because you also get to enjoy this moment. I'm guessing of nerding out,
Yeah.
honestly, like which I don't think many people appreciate really how important that is until you live somewhere where you don't meet nerds too often and
Our
people that are
tattoo
really into your
wizards,
fandoms
yeah.
and that.
Our tattoo wizards come to the show and they decorate their booths. You'll walk around and
Oh,
you'll actually see a
oh
tattoo
yeah, I
wizard
saw.
in
Like you
cosplay.
do. I can't remember. Do you give booth awards as well for
Sure
like the
do.
best?
Sure
That's so
do.
cool.
Like, I'm here for it. You better knock my socks off. Let's go. A lot of the times you'll see tattoo artists walking around. Last year, Teresa Sharp and her whole studio came and they
Oh,
were
I love
all
her work.
Yeah, it
I
was.
think I
They were
pissed her
all
off at a convention in
reprints.
Berlin once, but I think it was mainly my ex-bosses though. I worked for this shitty online tattoo magazine, and they
Hmm.
were like, "You gotta go." They kept pushing me to keep going and asking if she was still on for the interview, and then she quit because I got sent to ask her 5 times. And that's just, it pisses me off to this day that she seems so cool and I agree
She
with
is.
so much shit she posts. Yet
She's
I
amazing.
probably pissed her off then, and I was forced to do it.
I'll make sure I'll be like, I know you might not remember this, but no, their whole
She's
team
great.
came. Faith,
Yeah.
one of her artists that works for her was one of our judges, and we had
Oh
her
wow,
and
nice.
Anya, and they came up, and it was so wild because they came up to judging, and they were dressed as Parliament. They had on the wigs, and I was like, this is what we need in the world. That the
I
humor,
like that.
the
I like
love.
that.
Let's
The
bring it
humor.
back together. Yeah, let's just have fun. And that's what Literary Ink has been. It's and what hopefully comes out of the shop and my heart is what you're seeing is you're literally getting a weekend of just
I mean,
people that are like you.
but that's the thing we talked about to the start with. Like the passion is shared both between the
Yeah,
tattoo aspect and the nerd culture. And if you meet so many people that both love tattoos and they love nerdy shit,
it's
it's gonna be a
great.
fucking euphoric experience. Almost
Hmm.
imagine. I mean, I absolutely would love to go to the show one day because it does seem
Open
like a
invite. Open invite.
brilliant
Come
fucking time.
cover it. Let's
I know.
go.
I know. Don't guilt trip me into
I
finding
might
money I
even have
don't
a
have.
room for you. Fly over. I got you taken care of. Let's go. You think I'm kidding?
No, I don't think you're kidding. That's the thing. I don't think you're kidding at all. And I've gotten invited like this before. Not to
I'll
brag,
pick
but
you up from the airport. You'll get to
man,
hang out with the team. You'll be an honorary
Tennessee has an
mainliner for
airport.
the weekend. Yeehaw. I'm going to teach you how to say yeehaw properly. You're going to go back and they're going to be like, what happened
You'd
to
be
you?
surprised. You would be
Chattanooga.
surprised. I used to love Western movies when I was younger.
Oh, same. Tombstone. I mean, I can go back through all the good ones. Love it.
But my main point before I got guilt tripped right now.
Does that mean you said yes?
I mean, I'm absolutely going to come, but we'll have to figure it out at some point. But preferably when the Cheeto is not trying to war with my country, because that is making it difficult right now. And also,
I'm sorry,
if you told
everybody.
me if it was not like that right now, we're not going to get into it.
Yes.
So I'm
No,
only
no
going to say this, and then we
politics.
move right back on with the nicer stuff.
Yes.
If it was not that way right now, I would have absolutely taken you up on it,
Heard.
especially such a generous offer. Because why the fuck not?
Yeah, we'll get you next time. It's all good. We're gonna keep
Absolutely.
coming back. We're gonna keep pushing
I
love out,
imagine so. I
and that's
imagine
my
so.
big
Like,
one.
people are so keen on this, but I do have a fun question. And I can't help but answer it because this has been very lighthearted already. So there's going to be a few. Normally, I'm like, oh, let's round off on a lighthearted note. This has all been laughs, man.
All right,
But
hit me. I'm ready. Make
the
it
thing
good.
is,
Let's go.
people do come in cosplay, right?
Oh yeah, we have cosplay
Yes.
contests. Yeah.
Does that make it more difficult to tattoo? Because I imagine some of them will get tattooed as well in cosplay.
A lot of folks no and yes, and sometimes you can be cosplaying and have an area because you're able to get to it better.
Ah,
Everybody
right.
knows when the cosplay contests are happening, and I mean, I've seen an artist and their person dressed the same. Artists know what they
Nice.
need. I mean, it's that part. It goes back to
That could
exactly
get
what you
into some
said.
raunchy
Yeah.
territory with some books if you're like dressing in certain ways, artist and client, and it's like, oh, you're sitting there to tattoo them. Like, you don't want people that are fans of, say, 50 Shades of Grey dressing up for that, you know? That's gonna get out of hand real
I
quick.
use the term wholesome tattoo convention, but it really feels that way. So I mean, it's really
Yeah,
wild. We've
yeah.
had a lot of
I mean,
people.
it does seem very wholesome, but
Yeah, well,
I
we've
just
had a
know nerds enough to know that they're gonna be like, yeah, who's gonna
That's for
mind?
your hotel room, sir. We do have. It's so true. I'm not kidding.
No.
We've had a lot of people who've asked to do burlesque at the show, and that's one thing. I mean, I enjoy
Yeah,
seeing that at tattoo conventions, but that's not
yeah.
our tattoo convention.
No.
It's different. It's I wanted to do something a little different, and the
Yeah,
things
no,
that
I
you see,
get that.
like last year, we
I
had
mean, it
Aaron
would be
Mankey of
weird if it had like
Lorca.
old school stripper entertainment
No.
at such a wholesome show. That would be like, to say out of place would be the greatest understatement ever. Like,
Yes. The craziest thing that we get to is, like I said, we do book themed drag shows. We have drag shows at the event. And that to me is artistry. It's not
no, but drag show isn't about perversion or stripping
correct.
or lewdness or anything
And I'm
like
not
that.
knocking anybody who
It's a
wants to do
costume
that.
show. That's
Yeah,
what it
I'm
is,
not
and
knocking
it's
any
really
of that.
cool.
I just,
Oh
at our show, it's
no.
a little different. We want something that's
Yeah,
just a little different.
No, I completely get what you're saying. Like, it's not that it's wrong to do that. It's just you got
Yeah.
to know you got to know
Read
the
the room.
theme and the atmosphere of the show and all that stuff,
Yeah.
And it's got to fit with that. And I fully understand. Is there other forms of entertainment as well? Now, I'm curious now. So, no, no. I mean,
We've had
like, do you
circus
have bands on
performers.
anything like that, or like?
No, we've had circus performers come in. We've
Okay.
had tightrope walkers. We've got something we're working on this year, and the next time they come back, it'll be even bigger. We have a magician that's walking around.
Oh, okay.
We have different things. We had a giant jellyfish last year. She's 8 feet tall, and everybody was getting photos with her.
Huh?
That's the difference. I mean, there's so
Wait, no,
many
no, no, no.
jellyfishes in books, sir. Have you ever heard of
No, no,
Finding Nemo?
I get jellyfish. No, no, I get that. I'm just trying to imagine how. I would imagine it's involving stilts.
It does. And
Okay, cool.
her outfit draped around it was gorgeous. Like, I
All
mean,
right,
it's
fair.
and that's the stuff
I
where it's
don't know
like
why, but
different.
when you first said it, my mind first had to go. No, not a gelatinous cube. You're thinking D&D, actual jellyfish.
Yes. That's funny. But
For
no,
one
we
moment, I
do.
thought like an 8 foot gelatinous cube walking around the convention. How's that gonna fit?
It just did. We just do different things like that. Board de Beers is another one of our vendors slash
Oh, cool.
friends who gets tattooed by us. She brings like D&D set up. There was plays games going on there, but just those
Oh,
different things
love
happening
that.
throughout the show. Last year we tried a lot of different panels, and
Yeah.
they weren't completely full up, so we're going to try not doing panels this year, but doing like an actual Board de
Okay.
Beers tournament. And we found out because I had a friend of mine at the door, and she just asked everybody when they were leaving, "What was your favorite part?" I just wanted to shop and get tattooed. I got this tattooed and I shopped, and we kept hearing that. And
Yeah.
so every year I do something a
Maybe.
little
And
different to
I'm just
see
gonna
what needs to be
try and
tuned
throw
into a
my
little bit better.
inspiration in how I got inspired now. Because I get what you're saying, but I have to interrupt because I got such a cool idea. And you're probably gonna shoot it down, but it's okay. We'll see how it happens. But
Let's
what about
go.
making a taverna like fucking what do you call them? You have these Ren fair like at Ren fairs, like a taverna area. Like that, because people love shopping and getting tattooed. Having an area where they can enjoy like sort of that kind of jovial nature, getting some food in that'd be fucking great.
We have the food things set up. We actually
Oh
have
yeah,
this
no.
hallway that we do that we have like those things going through there. We
Ooh,
also have, I don't know if y'all like with prom photos, there's always like a backdrop and something you can get your photos with. Every
no.
year we've had something, well, every
I know
year,
of it from movies and
yeah,
that,
yeah.
but
We
not
have
here.
photo stops where you can take your photo in front of something. Last year there
Oh
was
nice.
a 12 chair long table, floor to ceiling in a convention space, decked out Alice in Wonderland tea party.
That's amazing.
And there was a throne
I
that's like,
feared for
come
one
take your
second.
photo.
I feared for one second this was getting taken a weird religious turn for a moment. And then I was like, "Oh, Alice in Wonderland, that's awesome."
Oh yeah. Like I
For
said,
one
it's
second, I feared, "Oh
wholesome.
no, not the Last Supper." No, you mean the Mad Hatter's
Yeah.
party?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's
That's
but just things
incredible.
like that, just everything that I've looked at doing.
But as like I've said several times already, that is the thing that I at least find so fascinating and cool about your convention here. It's such an interesting mix of the things that work really well together from a comic book or book convention
Yeah.
and a tattoo convention. Like
Yeah.
none of the things seem like you can clearly tell you work as a tattoo artist because you're aware of this stuff.
Yes.
Because nothing gets in the way of the tattooing. Yet the tattooing also doesn't get away in the way of the other stuff.
Correct. But I want to make sure that the tattoo artist and the attendees and the vendors and my team and all the volunteers have an amazing time. Like that's the
That's the
squad
thing.
goal.
But you could easily, especially when people that don't know exactly what's needed, for example, space for the artist, all that sort of stuff, you can easily imagine people accidentally betting too much on one part and then it gets in the
Hmm.
way of the other stuff. Like shit, I've been to conventions where people go so into the entertainment that the bands drown out all the communication
Yes.
between artists and clients. That's just not good for a convention because you gotta be able to talk,
Yes.
you
And
know?
those are different things too. Like we actually have music running the whole show. I have a DJ. A
Oh
lot of
cool.
places are doing this now, and I think that's the part. Like you just look, and where I was saying, there's everything I do every year. We change a
Mm.
little something. Like, okay, do we need to
Yeah.
keep the panels? Is that something that's going to be entertaining and people want,
Mm.
or is it more like, do we actually need to get a few more artists? Because there's a number that when I hit that number with the attendees, It's either going to be, I'm going to have to say, we're only going to have this number of attendees, or I'm going to have to say, we do need more tattoo artists. Because, there's
Yeah.
a balance to it. We are a smaller show. We have about 250 tattoo artists, about 50 vendors, and then all the artists are also vendors. I have
Nice.
a lady, Amber Foltz. She has the voice of an angel, and she's who comes and sings. And at
Oh,
the end of our
fun.
show, I send out a questionnaire that's done by my best friend who like grades Myers-Briggs stuff, and she's like, this many people came from here, this person came from here, they love Amber Foltz. Like, I had so many people say I want her to come back, that I knew that she was part of the show that was
Nice.
not going to change. And
Yeah.
those are the things that if you're really leaning into, like, talking about convention running. So I've had so many
Yeah.
people this past year. I've had several folks reach out to me that are like, I'm going to start my convention, can I ask you a few questions? And I'm like, yes. And they'll either send a list or we talk. And it is
What's the theme?
so hard to do this. It is not.
Yeah,
When I
absolutely.
first started, I made a joke to my then business partner. I was like, "Oh, it's probably only cost like $20,000. Let's do it."
Shit, my
It
mom
was I
asked
was
me
wrong.
today. My mom asked me today, why don't you start a convention? I was like, do you know how much that requires? Like,
It's your life. It has been my
I
second
imagine
full-time
so.
job for a
Hmm.
very long time. We did
Yeah.
2018, we did 2019, 2 weeks before 2020 show, COVID. And I waited 3 years to come back. We did our best to
Yeah.
kind of like,
How
I
many
didn't
shows
even
have there been
know.
now?
Do what?
How many
Oh,
shows have
this
you
will be
had
our
now?
fifth. This year will be our
Okay,
fifth.
cool.
So we did 2 shows. The third one got canceled. We came back and we jokingly called it 3 3/4 or 3.5. It was something like, it was like, here we go,
That's
y'all.
the best
Yeah,
joke. That's Naked Gun.
exactly. And then we came back with that show, and it was like, we all have moments of fear. I saw a lot of other conventions pop up.
Yeah.
I also, for 3 years, I was like, can I do this again? Was it a fluke? Oh my gosh. And when we came back, I had the team that I have now. And it was literally the most amazing thing to see how much they supported me. And when I had those
Yeah.
moments of fear or anxiety, they're like, we've got this, we've got you. And to hear that,
Nice.
like at that show, it was also, my birthday was on the Sunday of the show, and my team got this whole really rad thing for me. It made me cry. It was great and awesome. But it's like that show, I realized that the team that we had at Mainline,
Mm.
they'd walk through fire with me. They did.
That's
They
great.
did. They walked
Mm.
through, we hadn't had the show in 3 years. I didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't know what was going to happen. And it was just a moment that like I keep going back to it. It felt like a big hug. Like we all just, wow, like everybody was so
I
happy
mean,
to be there.
those are my favorite kind of conventions as well. I've just been to Gods, I think, and it was an amazing experience.
Yeah, I
Like, it
was
was
watching you
absolutely
all weekend.
incredible. It was absolutely incredible experience with it. But personally, it has not got the conventions I love really much in the UK beat, because I found out through this experience as well. I'm probably going to go back to Godspeed someday as well. It's not that. It was absolutely incredible. But I like smaller conventions sometimes.
Yeah.
There's something about that familiar shit. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
that it's not incredible. There's still incredible artists there. Like my favorite convention at the moment is the Scottish Tattoo Convention. And I think it's about the same size. I'm not entirely sure. There might be 100 more artists. That's about it. But, still relatively small. UK conventions are only 2 days as well, so you don't get completely burned out from socializing over 3 days.
It is crazy.
And there's just something to it. I couldn't agree more that when I go there, it also feels like a hug, because I meet people I haven't seen in years. I meet other people that I see there every time. I meet other people that you've wanted to meet. There's this mix of all this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's socializing and then gathering around something you all love, which in that case is mainly just, tattooing.
Yeah.
But in this case would be, I mean, there's a lot of stuff to get into there.
It really
As
is.
we've explored
And
now,
you will see so many different fandoms. Some of the stuff that I've come
And
through.
there's two I do desperately want to go to, and now I've got an invite from you in the same style that he gave me an invite, and that's also on the recording, I know, which is
Mm-hmm.
annoying because you do this while I'm recording, so I can't run from it. But
Oh,
you,
did I do
Christian,
that?
Christian,
Oh
yeah,
man.
Christian, that does Anime Incon
Yeah.
together with Body Machine.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name sadly at the moment, so I'm terribly sorry there. But he also said, "Oh yeah, come over. I'll have a place for you
Yeah.
to stay. You can go to the situation. We'll set up your podcast." Cool. When I can, absolutely want to do that. But yeah,
We'll be here for you when you're ready, and believe me, on this end, we are all
absolutely.
going through it. We are all going through it.
Absolutely.
So it's
But
just one foot in front of the other.
before we get down a dark path, let me ask you a fun question to sort of ease us towards the end here.
All
And
right.
that is, I'm curious to know, is there, other than yours truly, a dream guest you would love to attend or perform at the convention?
I will let you know that the theme around Literary Ink in the beginning was to get a particular artist there that I wanted to get tattooed by really bad, and he showed up. And
Nice.
so a lot of the things, and it's not just been him, it's moved on to other artists. I have gotten tattooed by 5 people that I never thought I would have an opportunity to get tattooed by, because they came from Italy, they came from Australia,
Amazing.
they came to this show. And so, no. I mean, do I want to constantly meet new people? Yes. But like, I got to meet the legends that I was looking at going, wow, I just
That's
wish I could see
fantastic.
how you tattooed. And I got to watch you tattoo my thigh. I got to have you for 2 weeks in my shop. You came over and cooked spaghetti for me. Like, there are things that's what this is about. Like, let's take the literary ink. It's about those relationships. I have been in this group of like 20 people, of people who attend Literary Inc. They're in an Instagram group chat talking about coming back to this show. They've never met until the show. And now I'm watching them travel
Fantastic.
from Australia to New York to hang out with each other. That's what this show and what life should be about. Like, push that love. The crazy stuff that's
Connections
happening in
and
our world
sharing
right
these
now,
passions and that. Yeah.
all the crazy stuff that's happening in our world right now can be darkened up by showing love. Like, show up and shine that light. Take it out of the room. Take it out of the room.
What a beautiful note to end on.
Yeah,
And
this is my thank you for coming to our
absolutely.
TED Talk.
Hey. I'm the host. I'm the host.
Sorry.
You have your convention. I'm the host. But we're at the end now. I've kept you for long enough, I think.
No, it's all
but
good. It's been
I
awesome.
gotta first of all say thank you so much for being on, Jen. I know you originally was messaging me months ago saying, "Oh, I love this stuff," and it was meant so much to me. And then I finally figured out, oh wait, Jennifer's actually going to be a really cool guest because she obviously is on the convention. I'm so happy you said yes. I'm so happy you've been on here. It's been incredible to talk to you about both nerdiness and the convention, all that stuff. But please let people know, where can they learn more about the convention? Where can they learn more about you? Where can they find your shop and all that stuff?
Here we go. I'm ready. Okay, so mainlinetattoo.com is our site for Mainline Tattoo in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Literaryinc.com is going to let you know everything that's going on with the show. It comes back September 5th through 7th with that book themed drag show at the end of the 7th. I can't wait. We also have a little pre-lit party. If you get tickets, you're going to learn all about that. We have artists that come over from all over the world. If you have questions, DM Literary Inc., Jennifer Edge, or Mainline Tattoo on Instagram, and you're going
And
to
I'll
talk
of
to me
course put
directly.
links to all of this in the
Yeah.
description when the
Yeah,
episode comes
you'll
out.
talk to me directly. I'm normally the one answering the questions. As we get closer to the show, we do have a few more people in the DMs, but I am here to help out and answer all your questions. I want to make sure you know that when you come to the show, you're welcome by each of us. We want you to have an amazing time.
Fantastic. And once again, thank you for being here, Jennifer. And to
It's been
anybody
great. Thank you
watching
for
or
asking.
listening, you're the best, to be honest.
We'll talk to you soon, and I can't wait to see this Dune project. So we got to get it started soon.
Hopefully I get more money in my account soon and I get to do stuff like that. I'm dreaming. She lives in Australia, the artist, so hopefully she'll be around Europe at some point as well, and I'll have the money to go see her. But don't get me on that tangent now, you know. We can't start another episode.
This is the end of the show, sir. We've got to wrap it up.
Thank you for being on. To anybody watching or listening, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Hello, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Jennifer Edge. What a legend. It's always awesome when I get to sit down and not just nerd out about tattoos, but also nerd out about all the geeky fandoms that I'm into. And trust me, if I could, in the current world situation out and my current life situation, I would absolutely be over to Jen's convention here in September like a gunshot. If you get to go to that convention, I envy you so much. Not as only Jennifer superstar, but there's so many great tattoo artists that's going to be there. There's so much great nerdery that's going to take place there, from book authors being there to all sorts of cool booths and vendors. Absolutely awesome to see somebody like Jen reinventing a bit what a tattoo convention can be and what it can be mixed with, because that's the thing. you can get tattoo artists to work at other kinds of conventions, why can't you mix tattoo conventions a bit with other fandoms of subcultures that already use tattoos? So hopefully people get inspired by that a little bit and see how that there's always sort of an overlap in these different subcultures and fandoms and all that stuff. But yeah, next time though, we're detouring a bit from that sort of thing, and we're having a Return of the Mac situation in a way. We're having Robbie Ripple back on the show. He was on the very first episode, and this time he's returning with a partner in crime, his brother, who he's rekindled his relationship with. And we're going to be talking a lot about how it is to be a part of a tattoo family legacy and what that means for sibling relationships and all sorts of things like that. So that's going to be very interesting indeed, and I hope you're all going to enjoy it very much.